Howdy, neighbors. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. Hope everyone's doing well. Looking particularly fit today for some reason. It must be all the stress. Um, Good to see everybody. Sorry I had to cancel on Monday. I've just racked on this deadline, but I will be done with this tonight. I think I have one shot left. We're doing a documentary, and I'm getting paid to do AI work, and they're paying me as much as they paid me to do nearly as much as they paid me to do like you know 13-part Cold War episodes. So that's cool. Um, but I'm happy to be getting out of that. Um, so I've been working on that a lot. It's yeah, I think the shirt really helps. I think the shirt does something for the color correction. Um, that was Don Vickery. But I'll tell you what, it's um, it's um, it's an amazing thing because usually my enthusiasm wanes over time, and sometimes that time can be many years, or more often it's probably a week or two. However, my I've become like pretty much nuts uh, about this. I'm 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 gonna go get the money for these colonies. By God, I'm just going to get them, and that's the way it's going to be. So the business plan, the feasibility study looks great. We got all kinds of cool things going. I was looking at a it was another piece of AI stuff. It was science fiction. It was flying over an ice planet, and I was watching it carefully, and I was wondering, what is it about? And one of them was like DEF CON 1 or something like that. And I was wondering what, a lot of people, and rightfully so, just can't stand AI. We dealt with this before, AI slop, and a number of people have warned me that, you got to be careful because people's opinion of AI is really not very positive because, it's kind of tool that anybody can just go in there and you get AI acting. You get the acting that comes with, Sora or Google 3, and it's not really acting. Um, and I was watching this thing, and I was wondering, why is this hot garbage? And no offense to the person who made it, because anybody who makes something and finishes it's a big hero in my book. Um, but what I was looking at was like just on a shot by shot basis. I was saying that there's a glitch there, or a morph there, or a warp there. There's this. This isn't correct. This guy's shouting into the microphone. People are reacting too late after something happens, and some of them were just hilarious. One of them is when they're getting ready to go to DEF CON 1, they take it to the chief general, whoever I guess they didn't really mention it, but it would be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he's sitting in, like a situation room, and he's getting ready to, sign this document or whatever, get us to DEF CON 1, and the number one military guy was a master sergeant in the Marine Corps. And this is the thing that we talked about so many times on Stratosphere Studio, Stratosphere Lounge. It's sweating the small stuff. It's absolutely true that perfection is the enemy of the good, and you got to come to a point when you got to kick it out the door. But just so many things like that would be just like, there's just no way. There's no way that I would let this go. A lot of things like you'd see like jets out on the runway, and the jets are getting ready to fire up the engines. And so they start the engines, and the fire comes out of the intakes. And I'm just thinking, you know, um, no, that's not how it works. And the the one thing, and I'll just get this over. Then I'm gonna jump to questions because I want to move the mail tonight, only because I'd like to get this thing finished. Then we can really have some fun. Yeah, exactly. John Connon talked about this many times in Ed Wood. It's my favorite, one of my favorite moments in movies. You know, Ed Wood, as I've said so many times, is sitting there talking to Orson Welles, And Ed Wood has a scene where he's got Tor Johnson carrying this unconscious woman out of this laboratory, and she bangs her foot on the flat, and the whole wall goes wugga wugga wugga. And the director of photography says, "Oh well, obviously you have to do that again." And Ed Wood said, "Nah, nobody will notice." Meanwhile, Orson Welles spends 2.5 days lighting one shot. So this is the difference. But I'll probably go into more detail on this on Monday. I just thought it was pretty cool right now. Yeah, and aircraft are not started on the runway, and flames don't come out of them when they start them either. And this is the kind of verisimilitude that what's an expensive word I use there. I'm moving my vocabulary up. But this is what I've talked about so many times also on Crimson Tide. The technical jargon in Crimson Tide is so perfect because the technical advisor was the skipper of the USS Alabama. So that is really a big deal. But I did see this one thing. It was probably the most interesting thing I've seen in a long, long time. Been watching a lot of. I don't know if you guys know. Everybody knows Critical Drinker, obviously. Phil Mento does criticism of scripts, and then there's another guy who's called Despot of Antrim or something, who does like an hour and a half breakdown of scripts. But Phil Mento is really, really good because he looks at movies not so much to review them, just to here's what's wrong, here's what's wrong, here's what's wrong. If you'd done this, it would have worked and stuff. But I saw something that wasn't done by either of those guys, and it was on the title of this half an hour was a half an hour, like a 28-minute examination of the title, which was, it wasn't Literature Devil. He's good too. Now this was called "Why Is It That Movies Don't Look Real Anymore?" And he started out by showing movies from like the 50s and 60s. Yeah, I always loved the pitch meetings too, Roadrunner. I think Ryan George is really, really, really gifted guy. He's just really good. But the guy started with the premise: why is it that movies? Was it you who sent it to me, Marisha? It was great. I thought I stumbled on it, but I just guess I opened the tab and then I watched it. Sorry about that. Credit where it's due, certainly. Dave Boutte says digital cameras versus Panavision, but I don't think that's it. What this person was saying is they're saying there's a difference between haptic and optic. And optic is visual, which is what we have today, but haptic is touch. It's a sense of touch. And you think, well, how do you get a sense of touch in movies? But what the guy did was he opened with like a couple of movies from the 50s and 60s. Lawrence of Arabia is a great example. All of the old Westerns were great examples. Is it like Stories of Old? Yeah, that sounds right. And what he was saying was, in those movies in the 50s and 60s, whenever you had a wide shot, you had universal focus, deep focus, so the whole frame is in focus, and you could see like every single tumbleweed in that shot. And a lot of modern movies will do very narrow depth of field, which simply means that your subject is in focus and the background is slightly out of focus, which on the whole is good because it brings your subject out from the background. And all of this has to do with how our eyes work. So if you put your finger in front of your hand here and you look at the screen, and you look at your hand, you'll see the monitor's out of focus, and that's how narrowed the field works. But the second you take your eyes off your hand, everywhere you look, everything is universally in focus. And what this guy was saying is, one of the many things that modern movies do is they put that narrow depth of field on everything so that the background is always out of focus. Always out of focus. And it doesn't give your brain a chance to really process the environment, so it doesn't feel real. It just feels blurry. He talked about the power of shots that have tactile sense in them, like a big close-up of somebody touching somebody or somebody running their fingers through grass, like in I think in 300, or anything that shows a sense of touch and grit and texture. And all of this stuff is largely gone in movies today. because they shoot on either on volumes or on a green screen, and it just, and in those cases it just plain doesn't look good. He had a couple lines that I just thought were so interesting. He was talking about some movie. Marusha says haptic visuals means conveying feeling through imagery. He was talking about some movie that he saw recently where they burned a barn down or burned down a house or something on camera. And he said, I've gotten so used to seeing CG fire that I've forgotten how powerful real fire really is. And I thought that's a profound observation. That's a really profound observation. And so we went on, and I think the best example was he was talking about the latest Jurassic Park, what is it, Rebirth or Reboot or whatever the damn thing is. And so these islands where the dinosaurs are all off the coast of Ecuador, Venezuela, they're someplace in South America. They're at the equator. It's damn hot back there. And in Jurassic Park, you see, the people getting off the helicopter. I didn't see the movie, whatever it is, but they're getting off this transportation, and you can tell it's supposed to be hot because they put a yellow filter over everything. Which anytime you go to Mexico in the movies, it looks like you're looking through a middle of a dust storm. But anyway, they get off of this thing, and some guy's like, "Ooh, hot out here," and then there's a shot of like Scarlett Johansson sitting in like a open bar, and I think the term the guy used is she's got vanity makeup on with just a little bit of sheen to show that she's a little sweaty. And he contrasted this with some movie, and I don't know what the movie was, but it was Roy Scheider, and he was like in like Mosquito Coast kind of thing. And Roy Scheider sitting in this bar, and the camera is like right here, and you can see every speck of dirt in every one of his pores, and the sweat's just pouring down, and he's got he's just really, really, really sweating. And everything in that bar and everyone in that bar is sweating and dirty. And you put these two images together and you think, my God, it's not even the same art form. How much more convincing that scene with Roy Scheider is, because it's so haptic. There's so much texture, and so I was thinking about this a lot. And Dave Big Boutte says they got to be dirty in the bar for the colonies, and I took a look at the two things I did for the colonies. I took a look at the Two Futures thing. In the part with the Earth people in the Sky Cities, I always thought they didn't look as real as the people on the colonies, and that's because they're perfectly made up. I actually kind of like that. I think that's something that I'm going to intentionally use. Is they're going to feel fake because they're so perfect and so beautiful and so flawless. And this works for the story, right? I mean, it makes sense. They've got more money, and they've got all these rejuvenative technologies. Yes, and Dave Big Booty says on that video, on Earth everyone was smiling but no one was happy. Yes. Then you go to the colonies and it's much dirtier, feels much more realistic. But the one that actually really surprised me, because my favorite thing ever that I have ever done in my life, I'm not saying it's the best thing I've ever done, I'm not saying anything like that, I'm just saying of all of the work I have ever done in my life, my favorite is Bumpy Ride Home. I can't believe I actually made that. And the thing about that is that when I was looking at all these different AIs of like spaceships and trying to be realistic and trying to make them look like movies, you get a kind of a vague sense of the back of the guy's head, or somebody will turn sideways and it's generic, CG guy in a helmet. But when I was going through the images for Bumpy Ride Home, I was specifically looking for that. I was looking for dirt. I was looking for wrinkles. I was looking for character in the faces. I was looking for chip paint on the helmets. And it's really, I don't know if I can't say that I stumbled on it. I just know that I got it to feel real because it looked good to my eye. And when I finally saw this video, it kind of explained it to me. So that really helped. In fact, let me just see something here. I like that so much. I'm going to play it again because I got it queued up in both. I'm just going to play it again just because I want to. I want to see it again. So look at the dirt on the faces and the reality of the faces and the. I'm not going to play the long one. This one's only 2.5 minutes. But just look at the. I was looking for real faces that had character, and instead of these guys, some of them look very cool. Like the guys, you'll notice when you watch this again, that there's a big wide range of different spaceships and spacesuits, which means money. Some of them, not a lot, most of them are old and beat up and used, but one or two of them are brand spanking new, and I like that too. But instead of these guys just looking at each other or looking around, I was real careful about. So in AI filmmaking, you pick the single frame that you like, and then you animate the frame. And I gave them, for the animation cue, it was pretty much the same for all of them. I said, these pilots are looking at, exchanging, looking at their instruments, looking at each other. They're focused, they're concerned, they're not scared, but they are, focused, I guess, So, and they're getting bounced around a lot. And that's another tactile kind of thing. If they'd just been sitting there and just been gliding into the atmosphere, anything that just glides smoothly just smells like CG. But I purposely put like heavy turbulence in there because this constant shaking, and all of them people, I swear, this technology is so miraculous and so frustrating. There have been times in the last week and I just wanted to just beat the computer to death with a stick. A close-up, I said, it just doesn't listen. The closest I can describe it is, I thought, is this like lion taming? No, it's this, getting this right is snake charming. You have to find a way to fake this thing into doing what you want it to do. I was explaining this to somebody earlier today who wanted like some incredible compound shot. And I said, look, here's the thing about AI video, okay? It knows exactly what a human face looks like, and it'll do a perfect human face. And it knows what a ship looks like, and it'll do a perfect ship. But it hasn't got the faintest idea how much bigger a ship is than a head. It just doesn't know. It has no way of knowing. It has some general idea that you should put if you've got a head and a ship, that the ship should probably be behind the head. But beyond that, it has no idea. It's got no idea. So until this technology comes along where we can load 3D objects into the AI and have the AI render them, which is probably going to be about a year from now, maybe a little less, we have to fake it. But in any event, I'm just going to play it one more time just because I want to. So real quick, here's a bumpy ride home. And then after that, we will get to the questions and we'll get back to our Thursday night political stuff. Ready? And here we go in 3, 2, 1, action. I just love it. I adore it. I haven't checked, Eric. I'll have to check after the show. I'm going to probably just fix two little things in that. One of them is the raindrops are going backwards on the windshield. Then they go forwards at the end. But first I saw it. I thought, I don't think, probably nobody will notice. But every time I see it, I notice. And other people notice it. And the other thing I'll probably do is I'll put a little bit more flare into the landing because it looks like they're about to plow that thing right into the ground. But with all that said, I love it. And so I'm trying to get the basics of this thing organized because I am in the process of emailing every single person I ever came in contact with during my 15 years of public speaking and all the business cards, and I'm emailing everybody. I need 7 founding fathers. I got one of them already, and that's what I'm going to do. By God, I am absolutely on fire. Kay Daltek says, looks good, Bill. Please get something out before other AI-generated content gets flooded. That will be an issue. Get recognized before that point where people start to ignore. I am getting. I've got one, almost certainly 2 of the 7 founding fathers I need at 50K each, who are very likely to see their money back plus 20%. And the initial raise for the Chosen was $10 million based on a proof of concept short that they did. They raised $10 million in their first raise, and the total amount of money it's made so far is $293 million. That will actually get investors, people with enough money to lose. It's not a real estate deal. But that's a pretty big return. So anyway, there you go. Okay, I'm glad I got that out of my system. I am really, really, really excited about it. I get more excited about it every day, which is pretty cool, actually. The trick of it now is to figure out the workarounds until the software catches up. Okay. Number 4. Bada bing, bada bing, bada boom. Just some questions for 11, 20, 25, and so on. Oh, and curated this week by Eric Blake. Thank you, Eric. We got an Eric Blake. We got a Ray Juarez, Capital G Geek, Road Rider, Marusha Dark, Jacob Belchek, another Jacob Belchek, or another Marusha Dark. We can do those. All right, let's see what we got. Eric M. Blake, second time in counting. Okay. Tonight, the case of the Epstein epiphany. So, Bill, the Epstein files are finally being released, and so far, the Democrats have completely humiliated themselves in their eagerly lunging for the files related to Trump. They've ended up underlining his innocence when they were so vehemently sure they could prove his guilt by redacting stuff they had no business redacting. Excuse me. And on top of all that, apparently we've got stuff on the files about Hillary, not Bill Clinton. Hillary. Yes, I know she. I know she went to the island the first time I heard about Epstein, whenever that was, a year or 2 ago. I heard she made several trips, not as many as old Bill, but yeah, I'm sure she went down there. And I bet they had the same servers. Hey, got him, Coach. How you doing, pal? Back to the question. Not Bill Clinton, but also Hillary, who Epstein apparently said did the naughty with Vince Foster. Remember him? I do remember him. The guy who totally, absolutely killed himself when he was set to testify against the Clintons. Yeah, apparently shot himself in the back of the head without leaving any bullets anywhere or something. Well, unfortunately, that is more likely explanation of the suicide than murder. I mean, that's not something you can't unsee. Can't help but wondering, Bill, this may seem absurd, but what if all the bizarre reluctance on Trump's end was, in fact, a play of the legendary Trumpian 4D chess? I'll entertain the notion, but the amount of damage he did over this is still being felt, so the payoff would have to be pretty big. But in any event, luring the Democrats into oh so confidently joining the call to release them all, release it all the files, because he must have seen stuff that incriminates him, and then he pulls a "be careful what you wish for, suckers," where they're complicit in taking themselves down. But surely you say the price Trump and crew paid with all the withholding was worth the potential gain. That's the point I just made. Well, it's only been a few months, and the only irreparable price, if you will, possibly involved a few blue off-year elections. As for potential gain, well, the story's still ongoing, and don't call me Shirley. What do you think, Bill? You know, this is really the fundamental paradox. Trump is protecting, let me rephrase that. Trump appears to be protecting these files as if there's something in there that would be quite damaging, if not fatally damaging to him. So otherwise, just release them. And at the same time, if there was something fatally damaging to Trump, it would have come out already. I don't understand what the resolution of that conflict is. Let me see. Kid Altex says, I think integrating how. Yeah. So I don't know. I do know this. I am on the full disclosure team, regardless of, I let justice be done, though the heavens fall kind of guy. If it turns out that these files are released and they're fully released, then I simply don't know why he took the kind of damage he took to end up at this point. I don't have a 4D chess take on this. I wish I did, but I just don't. Yeah, I just saw this a half an hour ago, actually. Yeah, it's a meme, and it's like a Democrat donkey pointing to the paper saying, "Trump is in the Epstein files," and then the guy's reading it says Epstein hates Trump, and then the next panel says, "But Trump is mentioned." Yeah, I don't know, Eric. I really do think at this point, given what it's become, I think it really needs to be released. I want to know what happened to Epstein. I'm pretty sure he didn't. Well, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino said he did commit suicide, and I trust Dan Bongino. And he has the inside information, and I don't. So there you go. This is the thing that I think, I need to be careful of, and we all need to be careful of, is we have become so cynical and reactive to the fact that we've been lied to. I mean, the government lied to us about COVID, lied to us about a bunch of things. And so the inclination is to say that anything that they say can't, that it can't be real. Let me just deal with this real quick before it scrolls away. First time chat from Wesco. Thank you, Bill, for Silent America. Well, thank you very much. That really was wonderful. Courage helped me through a tough time when we lost Columbia while I was working on the shuttle. Good for you, my friend. Hope you make your mark on my copy someday. As I mentioned earlier, I hope to make I'd like to make a Roddenberry Lucas-size mark in the culture, and I better get going if that's the case. And I'm planning on it. But thank you very much. What I worry about is I'm getting more convinced that I'm right about this theory that we have, and it's not just Gen Z, and it's not just millennials, it's Gen X, and to some degree boomers too. Dave Big Booty points out that I've said this many times, Wesco, if I autograph a book, it actually lowers its value on eBay. Anyway, what I've come to believe is that we've all grown up with movies where there's a twist, and it seems to me now that we live in a world where the more evidence there is for something, the less people believe it. And I'm sticking to that. I think that's going to be Whittle's second law. First law is that if the optics of something are so terrible that you can't believe it, it's only because the alternative is worse. And the second law is the more evidence there is regarding any issue, the less people believe it was true. because of the twist, and we've been lied to, and and so on, and it can't be this guy. All the evidence points to him. Where's the twist? So I don't know, Eric. I just would like to see them all released so that this thing can just be over with and done with, and I, with Epstein, saying he hated Trump. I don't know what. I don't believe that there's anything. I don't believe that there's anything fatally damning to Trump, and I don't believe that there's anything really even, you know, tangentially damning to Trump. He just doesn't seem like that guy. The left wants to make him into this pedophile. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. I mean, the guy's, how old was he when he first ran for office? Right? I mean, he's a billionaire. He can have whatever he wants to. Now, if the Stormy Daniels thing, I believed 100%. That may not have happened, but I didn't have a hard time believing that. But in any event, this is the kind of person, you look at it at the three wives he's had, and none of this is, you know, none of this is like Leonardo DiCaprio, for example. Leonardo DiCaprio is always dating women who are 24 or younger, right? Okay, there's a trend there. I don't see it for Trump, so I just want it out and over with, even if it is fatally damaging. I just want the house cleaned out. I want the stables, I want the agent stables cleaned out. And I think that that full disclosure is full disclosure, and I'm worried about us slowing down. Of all the people I really want to see to take the perp walk after Hillary, I think it will be James Comey. I just really want to see those guys, get it. Marusha says Scott Adams said that Trump is playing the "don't throw me in that briar patch" every time they bring it up, and he reverses it, saying it's a Democrat problem and name dropping three prominent ones. We'll see. We'll see. This is one of the things that I deal with in the colonies is what happens when you deal with when you reach a point of just absolute cynicism. You just give up. So we'll talk about that more on Monday. Had some interesting scenes that I wrote on Monday in my head anyway, kind of blocked out. So we'll see. All right, moving on. Ray Juarez. Hi, Bill. Not political, but I think you'll enjoy it anyway. Here's a link to Wizworld. Oh, the Wizard of Space and Time. Mike Jiblov's website. It looks like a GeoCities website from 1997. Thank you. Chitlov, who are you? What is all this? Where is this movie? Where's a soundtrack CD? Do you have any logo t-shirts? How do you make special effects? What are the WOSAT desktop icons? Do you have any more free software? Why does this look like a Christmas tree? Everything's laid out bigger and so on. Good. I really want to talk to him. And then there's a bunch of other Wiz sites. It is a one-page GeoCities website. It's kind of nostalgic, actually. It's wizworld.com. So, yeah, Mike Jitlov had an enormous influence on me, and a lot of people. A lot of people. I don't know. He'd be an interesting guy to meet. I'd really like to talk to him a lot, and I suspect I will. Ray goes on to say, I was using a website called Wybe, which lets you search up websites that feel like the old internet. So far, I found a lot of really small personal pages. Bob Dole's campaign website, oh my God, and the link I sent, which is Mike Jitlov's Wizworld. Enjoy a site I found randomly that's been up since 2003. Yeah. And it's the Wizard of Space and Time standing in front of the Hollywood sign. Hang on a second. Hi, Annie. How are you? Okay. Um, Okay, good, good. That sounds great. Um, I am right in the middle of the Stratosphere Lounge show. But I pick up this phone with the special ring on it. So how about if I call you back when I get done? I'm going to be short one tonight. I'll probably hopefully be done by 7:30, quarter to 8. Okay. Everybody says hi. Everybody says hi, and she says hi back. Okay. Talk to you later. All right, baby. Love you very much. Okay. Bye bye. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's great. So thanks for that, Ray. That was great. All right, capital G Geek. Here we go. Um, um, Greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Did you see the kerfuffle between Dinesh D'Souza and Tyler Oliveira? I did not. Briefly, Tyler Oliveira went to a poop throwing festival in India and said that he wasn't publishing after being doxxed and threatened. Dinesh replied with, "It seems like the future belongs to the poop throwers," with a chart showing Asian incomes being 20% higher than whites. There's also some other tension between Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ben Shapiro, Thomas Massey, etc. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around, hasn't there? It seems like they're all trying to lead MAGA in their pet direction, none of which are America first. Trump letting 600,000 Chinese students into American universities isn't very MAGA either, yeah. And apparently, I didn't hear the actual quote from Trump, but something to the effect of, we don't have enough Americans to do these kind of things, but in any event. In Virginia, Winsome Sears lost in part because she was handpicked by Governor Youngkin and didn't go through the normal primary process. I suspect Vivek will have similar problems in Ohio next year. Are they really going to destroy MAGA and return to the old monoparty Republicans? Starting to remind me of every other Republican administration where promises are forgotten immediately after the election until it's time to bring them back up for next election. Maybe the accelerationists have a point. I think what clearly is happening is that the traditional two parties they're just unrecognizable anymore. A lot of people who've been lifelong Democrats just couldn't imagine voting for them anymore with this woke thing, and a lot of people who are. I think MAGA is. I think MAGA is going to outlive Trump, to be honest with you. And then, of course, there's guys that are going Nick Fuentes' way. There are guys that are Tucker fans. There are Candace fans. Although it seems there's fewer Candace fans as every day goes by. Um, um, Ben Shapiro seems to be just constantly digging himself in deeper and deeper and deeper. And yeah, so ever since Charlie Kirk's assassination, it's been a free for all. I don't think that Charlie was the glue that held the conservative movement together. I just think that the crash, the shockwave is a better term, has dislodged everything. Um, I'm deeply concerned about Gen Zers going to Nick Fuentes, but at the same time, I'm not as worried about him as I used to be, because I don't see any leadership there. There's no question he's got influence, but everything that he talks about seems to be rock throwing incident power. He's a spoiler. He's the kind of guy that can go in and ruin something for somebody, but he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that can go in there and really build a movement. Charlie Kirk was that kind of guy. Uh, the you know, I think Tucker continues to be clown himself. I think that the second I heard Candace start on this whole conspiracy thing, it was immediately crystal clear to me that she just wanted TPUSA. It's a fairly big bundle. All these people that are saying, all these people that are complaining about Israeli money, did you get your $7,000 for your pro-Israel post? It's like, no. As a matter of fact, I've done a bunch of them, and I reckon that Bibi owes me no less than 70 grand. But everybody's fishing for that big money. You know, the TPUSA is a $70 million organization. Uh, Daily Wire is much bigger than that. It's nearly 10 times bigger than that. At least it was at its peak. Um, but that's well, you know, that was a fairly little tightly run ship. But when you take away, when you take Charlie Kirk away from TPUSA, I'm not entirely sure what you've got left. Isfindi says Charlie Kirk murdered and Dennis Prager out of commission are both profound hits to the morality, decency, and clarity of our side. That's a great point. The lunatics are coming out of the woodwork and taking control. We'll pay a price for not dealing with these people. We'll pay a price for trying to normalize them or live with them or factor them in or playing footsie with them. Yeah, this is why I'm not so. I think that Nick Fuentes needs. I think Nick Fuentes needs to be hated. I think that's his power source. I think that the repression of Nick Fuentes is his power source. That's his heat source. And once you let up on that, he doesn't become quite as romantic, you know. If you've got a message for disaffected people, the best thing that you can possibly do to prove your bona fides to people who are disaffected is to be persecuted. And there's no question that Fuentes was basically being persecuted and suppressed. It's like compressing a spring. It's not a good idea. The more you try to compress that spring, and the more you try to hold that back, just the more powerful it becomes. I think the thing to do is just let him loose, man. Just let him loose. Take away all of that, victim armor. Take away all of that taboo thing. People are attracted to those things that are forbidden, and when you say this guy is beyond the pale, only lunatics listen to him. Then people who are disaffected find it rewarding to listen to a guy like that. I say just simply let him. And I'm not just saying this for strategy-wise. I'm just saying this in terms of my own code of personal morality and political beliefs. Let him say whatever he wants to say. I think the more he talks, the better. And so, there's that. Candace Owens has the #1 podcast in the world now, or at least in the country or whatever, last I heard, because she has filtered the bottom 5 or 10% of the MAGA movement. You know, she constantly denies it, but she's openly just said that TPUSA. I mean, well, she has certainly inferred or implied rather that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by TPUSA or by Israel or by Erica or by all these other people, and if you can discredit the successors to Charlie Kirk, I think her strategy is #1, make as much money as you can while you're making these grandiose claims, and #2, I think from the moment she opened her mouth on this subject, I'm Charlie's closest friends, and he just a day before he was killed, he was talking about putting the band back together and bringing me back to TPUSA. Okay. I think she's gunning for, a vote by acclaim. But yeah, and strangely enough, Tucker never really struck me as having look, you don't have to like Mark Levin or Ben Shapiro or I'm trying to think of some other guys. But it is clear what their principles are, and I'm not entirely sure I ever knew what Tucker's principles were, or that Candace really understood, what conservatism really was in terms of, I think anybody who had a website designed to dox people who are giving you trouble is not made out of the right cloth yet, So in any event, all of this is just a lot of froth and foam. It seems like it's dying down, and I think it is dying down. And I think the thing to do is just to is just to have a seat and in the park and feed the ducks and see if you can find shapes in clouds, and let him go. He's this is the power of people who draw the persecuted to their side with a message of anger. The people who genuinely make a difference and the people who can build an actual movement. I know this sounds kind of kumbaya and stuff, and the Groypers would say this is exactly the kind of boomer kind of thing that they're fighting against. But this isn't my opinion. I just think that this is history. The people who put together lasting political movements are the people that can harness hope, as well as anger and resentment and all of those other things. But they don't just feed the fire of get angry and smash this thing. They kind of feed the fire of saying, all right, let's get angry and let's fix it. And here's a plan. What's the plan? So far, the Groyper plan to me is go to various speaking events and conventions and shout people down and get in there, on their questions when they're taking questions and stuff. It's like, okay, I don't think that's a winning strategy long term. I do think it gets you a lot of attention. I think that's what he wants more than anything. And that's why I think we're kind of at peak Fuentes. I'm not saying he's going to go away, but this is his breakout season. This is the season where everybody's talking about him. And I think you just let him out of his box and turn off the repression and just let him go, and time will tell. I can't tell you, I mean, I mentioned it a couple times before, but back when I was doing a lot of public speaking, 8-10 years ago, I was doing all these events. I watched, various people become like the next big thing. There are a number of them, but the one I remember the most was Milo. There was a period there when I was going out to, I don't know, 4 or 5 conventions a year and plus another 20 or 30 speaking events, and everybody was talking about Milo, and Milo was the featured speaker, and Milo, because he's he's sassy, openly gay, conservative. I just didn't think that he knew that much really about not even knew it. It's because there's not much to know. It's really simple. It's great stuff. That's what I like about conservatism. It's actually very simple. I just didn't think he had it organically. It just seemed to me like that this was a way for him to get a lot of attention. And I think the same way about Nick Fuentes, the same thing about Candace Owens, that they're in it for the attention, in a way that Dennis Prager isn't, and Dinesh D'Souza isn't, and Mark Levin isn't. I don't think they're in it for the attention. I think that they're in it for the principles. So that's my take on it. Road Rider. Lots of recent talk on X and other sites of the benefits of real work in the upcoming era of AI. Mike Rowe's been doing everything possible to promote the benefits of trade schools, hard work, dirty jobs, so to speak. He also has a foundation, the Mike Rowe Foundation, where he gives money to people to get them trade jobs. Micro Works, I think it's called. Looks like he's having an effect in some small way. It gives me hope that you'll break through with your conservative message. While Mike Rowe's got that folksy tenor, a couple of hit shows and podcasts under his belts, his signature brand is the Mike Rowe Foundation. It's allowed him to focus energy, attention, and effort. You got millions of views on YouTube and your site, dozens and dozens of impactful in-person speeches, and lots of TV hits. Oh, and those what we saw's everything Mike has except that tenor, yeah. So if focus works for Rowe, what Bill Whittle's signature brand or effort to push? It's colonies. Been the colonies my entire life. I've wanted to do this my entire life since I was 16. Ever since I lost the chance to be a real astronaut, I wanted to do a science fiction franchise. The Aurora script that I worked on starting in 2005 or 6 was basically I was gonna walk us from 10 years in the future all the way to 250 years in the future. But this just gets more and more developed. It's been sitting in the back burner. I've been doing things like technology demonstrators and Major Mace Mattingly and all this other stuff because I knew I would need those tools one day. And then you know, was it now 4 months ago, 3, 4 months ago, along comes this AI video, and it didn't look like a bad nightmare anymore. I did that Memorial Day thing with those faces of those soldiers, and I just simply couldn't believe how good it looked, and that really got me thinking that the game had changed. And then, as I said, about 2 months ago, I watched somebody get up and commit $250,000 to a relatively small conservative foundation. I was like getting hit by lightning in the back of my head. I said, there's all this money floating around, and I'm sitting here, doing marathons, stratathons, and this is nuts. So I put together a really excellent business plan, an excellent feasibility study, and I am in it to win it. So I know that's been a real strain for a lot of people, especially everybody, Story Mechanics is going to work that into the colonies when we get this thing rolling, and all the rest of this stuff. And I understand it, I really do. But of all the things that I'm doing, the only thing I do in my spare time that I want to do is the colonies. And I sometimes run into frustrations with the limits of AI right now, and I have to just kind of calm myself down and say, okay, it's going to take, certainly probably January or February to get to start the equity crowdfunding, and that would be the earliest. And by the time it's time to really start doing the pilot episode, we're going to have most of the tools, so I don't have to worry about this stuff. Until then, we'll do compositing with 3D animation as well as AI animation, and we'll break down the workflow, but all signs are pointing to it being an in-the-box, photorealistic movie studio by the end of 2027, and maybe sooner. So people constantly talk about my lack of focus, and they're absolutely right. I'm not making any excuses at all. On the contrary, I'm like to make as many sincere apologies as I could, but this is the one that lives in my head all the time. This is my best destiny. This is the thing I've wanted to do since I was 16. So that's 50 years. And the one thing that will be good news to those of you who've been here for a long time is, after that night at that event when I was emceeing that, and I just watched $250,000 just go, just like, I just, from that moment forward, I have completely reversed the polarity on asking for money. I'm going to be asking everybody for as much money as they have for this. And I think probably the reason I was so, reluctant to do it before was I wasn't really sure where the value was, but I know where the value is with this. So, there you go. Dr. Dre says Fuentes is much smarter than Candace, Tucker, or Milo. He got banned from everything in 20 and had his own streaming platform built. I couldn't agree more. He is a smart guy, and he's got a pretty good education, and he could do a lot of good if he would think some of these things through and make a few apologies, because he's really got potential, but he's not. I just think there's a fundamental inauthenticity about him, and this is the age of authenticity. So there it is. Marusha Dark, topic, Deus Vult. But you may recall something some months ago I put forward the Quivira hypothesis, which was my prediction that we'd eventually see a right-wing authoritarian rise to power. You disagreed with this at a definitional level, but consider what we're currently seeing. A recent Jubilee episode featured Mehdi Hassan. Is that Hassan? Quivira. Sorry. Is that Hassan is that the dog electrocuting Hassan? Versus 20 far-right Christian nationalists. Well, it's unusual. Oh, different Hassan. Usually it's one guy on the right outnumbered by a bunch of people on the left, in which many of them unironically argued for abolishing the Constitution in favor of Christian monarchy. Zoomers generally seem to more willing to be more willing to openly flirt with authoritarianism and theocracy People like Nick Fuentes and the staff of Timcast IRL being notable examples, arguably, because they aren't old enough to remember the Bush years. They're not old enough to have parents who fought the Nazis and had a lot of losses. Uncles and friends and brothers killed by Nazis. I was taught to hate Nazis from the day I was, drawing breath. Real ones, the ones that actually killed millions of people, not the ones that have, spiffy uniforms and stuff. You have Christians and Muslims fighting in the streets of Dearborn, Michigan. General rise in anti-Semitism coming from the right, not just the left. Couple this with the purity test that the capital G geek mentioned, and Congress basically refusing to do much of anything, such that people will be more inclined to vote for a strong man to cut through the BS and get things done in spite of any moral hazard. Well, the left would say that's already happened, but here we go. I'm not saying we're there yet, but the rate things are going. If Trump and Vance can't right the ship, we might see a charismatic figure like Nick Fuentes rise to actual political power in the next 10 years as people say, F it, I don't care anymore. Personally, I think that would be just as dangerous as anything we've seen come from the left. It really does feel like Charlie was the glue holding this together, and no one has stepped up to fill that void, even if they can. All this to say, why is it so hard for people to proclaim a pox on both your houses? So I think I covered a lot of that earlier, but just to recap, it wasn't so much that Charlie was the glue as Charlie's death was a giant shockwave that shook everything loose. One of the things I've said about Nick so many times before is he's 80% right about just about everything. He's not right about 80% of the things. He's 80% right of almost everything. So, on some level, you really do need. Look, Western civilization has to be defended, and it's under assault from a godless left and a very theocratic Muslim insurgency. These are both internal insurgencies. I don't particularly worry about China. I don't particularly worry about Russia. I worry about these two groups very much. When I see the Islamization of European countries and cities and London and Paris and all the rest of it, it's like that's what one end looks like. When I look at Portland, I say that's what another end looks like, and in between that, here we stand. Paradoxically, maybe not paradoxically, actually, it's not a paradox at all, but interestingly enough, Portland looks like a hellhole, and so does London. They're messy people, both of them. Have you noticed that? The Islamicists and the leftists, they like to leave garbage everywhere. They're not high trust societies. They're not driven by basic altruism in the sense that I'm going to clean things up because I like to live in a clean place. So what stands against that? Reason stands against it. You don't need to be a religious. You don't need religious fervor to fight the left, but I think you need some kind of religious fervor to fight Islam. Muscular Christianity is a term I like a lot. I think we're really. I think we really need it, but at the same time, Christian nationalism. When you have people saying, shred the Constitution in favor of a Christian monarchy, I'm off of that boat. I think we need more Christian values in our society. I think we need more virtue in our society, absolutely. But I'm not on that ship. No way. The beauty of the Constitution, the genius of the Constitution, was that it encoded Christian values into sort of a non-secular framework, Marisha says the danger of an authoritarian right will be if Trump and Vance fail and their successor says F the rules, just win, just clean it up, the Constitution and morality be damned. This is why this is why this whole thing since Charlie's assassination has been so hard to watch, because up until this point, I'd considered MAGA to be, I mean, not what the left says, I know what the left says, but being a person inside the movement, I considered MAGA movement to be virtually morally stainless. You know, I hadn't seen a bit of ugliness inside the Make America Great Again movement. I hadn't seen any ugliness. Now I'm seeing more than I would like, and I'm seeing more totalitarianism, and I'm seeing more extremism, and a lot less reason. Reason is the you know, reason is the judge in the marketplace of ideas. Reason is what can tell you what a good idea and a bad idea, or good behavior or bad behavior is. Reason and memory and history and truth. So if you had to ask me, and you did, I would say that in the not too distant future, the woke right and the woke left. I didn't believe the term woke right until a couple weeks ago, but I see it now. I really do. I think the woke right and the woke left are going to split off, and I think that what's left in the middle is going to be something else. It's going to be the party of constitutional values, and I wouldn't be surprised. I've heard a bunch of people. I've heard Fuentes talking about this, and a bunch of others saying, you know, we need to align ourselves with the far left because they meet, you know, in the back of your head there. I think they're both going to split off, and instead of a two-party system, I think we'll have a three-party system. It's going to be like Neapolitan ice cream, which I've always hated. Asa Pindi says, will they split off or will they join together? They might join together. There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said about unhappy extremists. You know, they sure, especially when you throw in unreason. When you've got somebody like Tucker Carlson, who at one time was one of the most effective spokespeople for pro-American values, denying that the moon landing had happened, and saying that the dropping of the atomic bombs is a war crime, that's an abandonment of reason on his part. And it's just, you know, yeah, I never liked Neapolitan, never could stand it. But it's a I don't know. Got him. Coach says, "Hey, Bill, does MAGA have Israel fatigue because of people like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin?" I think the people that are talking about undue Israeli influence on our politics have got a point, but the idea that the United States is a puppet of Israel is just wishful thinking. It's just not true. I think our values align, and I think our strategic interests align, and I think they have an undue influence compared to other countries. I don't think there's any question about that. And if you make that something that you can't talk about, then you are pressurizing the boiler that runs the anti-Semitism, in the same way that you pressurize the boiler when you suppress and try to repress Nick Fuentes. You're making him more powerful. If it comes to you can't criticize Israel, you're making that more powerful. Of course you have the ability to criticize them, and yet when it comes to the Jews and Islam, I know which side I'm on. I don't even have to think about that. I mean, I don't even have to come close to thinking about that. They're not, you know. I lived in Miami for quite a long time, and there were a lot of Jews in Miami Beach, and I don't recall Hava Nagila being played over loudspeakers at 5 o'clock in the morning and 5 times a day. So, to me, it's a no-brainer. However, the entire system is really, really in trouble, and And I used to be a big supporter of even like large corporations, but the more I see of them, the less I like them. I was a supporter of big pharma because I think these miracle drugs have saved so many lives, and they cost billions of dollars because they have to develop so many of them that just don't work. But then along comes Pfizer and the government saying you have to take us by law. If you don't, you're going to get fired. Then it's like I'm off of that train now. And the buying up of small properties and independent things, that just get sucked into this machine. I was thinking about one of the things I didn't talk much about yet, although I've been certainly spreading out the net a little bit in terms of backstory on to come back to the colonies again. But really, the government of the colonies is going to be just a magnified version of what we have now, which is mercantilism. It's sometimes called crony capitalism, but mercantilism is a much better term. It's an alliance between the government and very large private interests, where the private interests make huge political donations to keep the people elected, and in exchange for that, the political class writes laws that protects that large corporation. And so when you see that, you realize, no, there's yes, Coffee Chanel says it's not free market capitalism. It isn't. It's not the free market. And when I was putting together that thing on the colonies, the difference between the super beautiful, super rich people on Earth and in the administrative district, the combination of powerful corporate and hereditary corporate titles and hereditary bureaucratic titles versus working class people, I actually had to stop myself a couple times and say, am I actually rooting for socialism here? I mean, am I like pulling for communism? It's like, no, I'm not saying that these people in the colonies are the proletariat. On the contrary, the entire purpose is these people went to live in this place of great hardship in order to get away from the regulations that don't let them open their own businesses. And that's why I really, really think that there's just so much that can be done with this story. I mean, Jake's story is, he's a guy who's a fluid engineer. I keep calling him a hydrologist. I don't even know if that's the correct term. But basically, he deals with high pressure water systems and things. And so he decides he's got to get out of this place because it offends his honor. It puts his family at risk living on Earth. And so he goes out to this place, and he's going to start a business by supplying people with their own water supplies. He's going to drill down through the permafrost. They don't have to port their water in anymore. Give him a little nuclear reactor to make that happen, and he's going to make loans, and he's going to just going to make it happen. He's going to build over the course of 4 or 5 seasons. He's going to build a real civilized, decent-sized fortune because he works with his hands, and he is he's a hard worker, and he's providing something of value, and so he just hangs out his shingle and off you go. Sven Nakarima Will says no free market in America since 1908. Permanent corporate tax began in 1909. Man, the official progressive era, 1900 to 1920, did so much damage to this country. It's almost unbelievable. So so he's just so none of these guys in the colonies are proles. They're not proles. They're citizens, and they work. And I want to have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of little businesses, because it's yet another trope that's in everything, that the future belongs to these mega corporations, and we'll have mega corporations, but this idea that you have to be a wage slave in a free area like a frontier is nuts. There were no wage slaves on the frontiers that I can think of. There were like dry goods stores. That's my real dream, actually. I wanted to be an astronaut, then I wanted to be a filmmaker, but my main dream, I've never spoken of this to anybody because it's so deeply personal, is I've always wanted to open a dry goods store. But there you go. So yeah, they're just they're hardworking guys, and they want to keep the money they make. Company towns, yes, they had wage sweeps. That's true. That's true. And God help me if this thing ends up looking like Petticoat Junction, because that'll be an epic fail. All right, here we go. Jacob Belcheck. Hail, Bill. Hail, Jacob. Quick input from Gen Z here on your AI endeavors. One of the most immediate cues of AI slop is the duration of the video. Your incoming flight compilation last TSS was very well made, except for one problem. The clips switch every 5 seconds on the dot. This creates a very artificial rhythm that normal movies don't have. This is a very good point. It's true. There may be a limitation of the technology for now that I expect will be solved soon, but in the meantime, be very careful of that. It'll get you binned into the slop lands quickly. Yes. So one of the things I'm going to be working on next is doing a single ship reentry, but instead of it just being cut, 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 cut. Yes, they're all exactly the same length. It is what it is. It's just a visual demonstration. It's not storytelling. It's kind of storytelling. It's showing off. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the scene ready for the sizzle reel for when we go public with the equity crowdfunding. And I'm going to have the family coming down from orbit. And that's going to mean, disconnecting from the orbital station, and it's going to mean, the two pilots are going to be talking, and they're going to come down, so they're going to be close-ups, they're going to be reversals, going to be dialogue, exterior shots, look at the family in the back there. It's going to be cut together like a movie. And it won't be just this revolving series of shots. But with that said, there is a rhythm to that thing that I just showed that I like a lot, and there is a story, and that story is they keep getting lower. One of the things that that's a workaround that we're going to need to do is to render one side, render the other side, because I wasn't able to do reversals, wasn't able to have dialogue. But one thing that I can definitely do is once you render the two sides, you just go into Photoshop and you black out the windows. And if you black out the windows, then you can have the AI render high atmosphere, clouds, water, put that stuff out the window, and you have the consistency. Consistency right now is the absolute bane of AI existence. Is making things consistent. That's really hard. So there you go. Marisha wants to know, Bill, do the pro versions have the option to make longer than 5-second clips? Yes, I can make a 12-second clip, but that's not what that was about. Speak of the Devil thing, which dialogue had nothing to do with anything, wasn't particularly good dialogue, but it was a conversation where I had crossing reversals and the backdrop out the windows matched. It looked like they were in the same room, and that was satisfactory test. So the next step is to up the game on all of these things now that I've got the basics, and start to break down the workflow for the sizzle reel for the public funding. So the plan is I need to find 6 more founding fathers at $50,000 each. They get paid back first, and they can make 120% of what they put in, at which point they cap. They get called the founding fathers on every piece of content we put out from now until the end of time. And that funds the pilot episode for probably around $500,000 or $600,000, which I think is an achievable raise. And then with the pilot, you do another raise for the first season. So that's those are the stepping stones. And the further forward you go into time, the easier this gets. But you get the idea. Actually, Marusha, I've thought about utilizing some of the Peanut Gallery in ways that I can use. And I saw your incredible analysis of AI systems, so I'm going to be talking to you about that as well. And it's time to start getting this thing, organized now that I actually have a business plan and place to go. But yeah, Jacob, you're right about the rhythms on that. But again, I looked at that thing I just showed earlier, and there's no glitching in there. There's no there's not a false moment in there, in terms of all of the. There's John Eden back again. Gosh, how do we get rid of this guy constantly just walking around dropping $100 bills into the chat room, just hither and yon, threat to public safety and to high seas navigation. Thank you, John. You are a founding father, first class paladin, and once again, you have my deepest thanks. You just can't. He's a legend. The man is a legend. John Eden with a $100 super chat over there for no reason other than because he's a swell guy. You, sir, are a steely-eyed missile man. That is the highest compliment I can give somebody, and you have been for the longest time. So thank you very, very much for that. Again, as always. Okay. We got another big Jacob Belchuk. Yep. And then we got Marusha Dark, and we're done. Okay, here we go. Jacob Belchuk again. Yes, John Eden has to be the name of a ship in the colonies. Yes, that's a great idea. I'm tempted to do something because the last name is so cool. Something along the lines of the name of the town of Springfield was, obviously it's the name of a scenic thing, but I love how The Simpsons said it. Well, it was named after Jebediah Springfield. Oh gosh, what's the other town? It's been a while since I was watching The Simpsons because it's been about 30 years since they were worth watching. Shelbyville, and that's probably named by David Shelbyville. Yes, a noble heart embiggens the smallest man, even in Shelbyville. I love that rivalry. That show between seasons 3 and 10 was simply, absolutely magic. Anyway, here we go. Hail Bill from Jacob again. There's a potential follow-on or rebuttal to the interesting question from Mr. Dark above. There's an essay out there from Charles de Montesquieu that details why he thought America was great, and the conclusion that he came to is America's greatness came from America's goodness, and that the goodness came from aggressive preaching of America's churches. You may recall that once, many months ago now, I asked you what does it mean to be good from the Christian perspective, which I come from. God is the source of all that is good because he is the creator of the reality that we live in the same way that you finish a script and say it is good when it has everything you want in it and nothing that you don't want, so God is when he creates. For human beings, then, good behavior is whatever God prescribes for you, and bad is anything outside of that. Interestingly, even Charlie Kirk struggled to give me a cogent answer on what it meant to be good when he came to my university a couple of years back. See this link if you want to see that discussion go down. And here's a link, and it's a YouTube question, and I'll just leave that teed up there. Is that you asking the question, by the way? All right, back to the question. Secularism assumed that everyone would come to the same understanding of what good was, which unchecked third world immigration and Marxist liberation theory has shown to be patently false. How do you think we should address this problem? I think even the thought leaders on the right are going to struggle with understanding how deep our disagreements over these fundamentals are. Well, this is a simple one. People have been struggling, with this for ages. Well, clearly the religious definition is pretty self-explanatory and self-contained. The Ten Commandments, for example, are 10 commandments, and these things are considered to be absolute good. I was quite surprised. I didn't know until Natasha and I binge watched The Chosen, that Judaism has 600 and some commandments, 6 laws that have to be followed, 600 and something. That's a lot of laws. So since the religious definition and conclusion is self-contained, let's talk about going outside of that. I think there are. I think most people could agree that there are actions and behaviors that none of us like, and actions and behaviors that all of us like, assuming that none of us are insane. And there have been entire cultures that have been insane, but as a general rule, nobody likes getting punched in the mouth for no reason. Nobody likes. We have an inbuilt sort of a sense of justice regarding things like watching somebody stealing an old woman's purse, or the strong taking advantage of the weak. We've fetishized that into anything that's strong is automatically morally incorrect, and anything weak is morally correct, and that's completely insane. But there seem to be some constants that go throughout society. Nobody wants to be murdered. Nobody wants to be beaten. Nobody wants to have stuff stolen from them. So there are universal dislikes, and I think there are also universal likes. People like being treated. I almost said people like being treated with respect, but there are entire societies on Earth where that just simply doesn't happen. So, I'm just, if you, again, you have to, the Christian or the Jewish or the Islamic definition is self-contained, so there's not much real debate to go there. I just keep coming back to how completely blown away I was by this idea that there really are only three laws that you really need to follow. Don't hurt anybody, don't take their stuff, and do what you promise to do. I really think that if you just have those, and anything else is on the table. That just seems to be maximum human happiness to me. Now, that's kind of a winner's philosophy, right? You leave me alone, and I'll do well, and I'll be fine, and I don't want you restricting my freedoms and my ability to navigate my own life and have agency over my own life. Other people who aren't wired that same way as most of us are have as one of their overriding motivations the idea that good is having people with capabilities and who are productive, it mandating them sharing the benefits that they have worked hard to produce. That's why socialism is essentially a philosophy for losers. It appeals to people who either can't or won't make the effort to better their lives, and they see people who are doing better than they do, and instead of motivating them to get up and work harder, they just want those people brought down. It's that ancient Russian story about the guy who prays and prays and prays. So God gives him a cow and tells God all the wonderful things he can do with the cow. And if he only had a cow, then he'd be able to make cheese and plow his fields and so on. And one day there's a bolt of lightning in the middle of his prayer, and God creates this cow for this peasant, and the peasant is praising God every day, and he gets his cow out there and he makes cheese and milk, and there's milk for the little children, and they're plowing fields so the crop yields go up and so on. He's got a guy who lives right across the street from him, another peasant, and he prays and prays and prays and prays, and finally God appears in front of him and says, "What can I do for you?" And the guy says, "I want you to kill that guy's cow." That's how people are built. It's just true. That's how people are built. So that's kind of what I believe. I just believe that you should be able to live your life the way you want to, as long as you don't harm other people, you don't steal their stuff, and you do what you promise you're going to do. Because I can't think of a behavior that I would legislate against that doesn't fit under those three laws. It just seems very simple to me. There you go. Is this a Vandenberger launch, Dave? It's cloudy. So, I mean, I step outside the building and watch the Vandenberg launches pretty much every time that I get a chance to. So it's so boring. Another orbital launch going off again. It's just like watching planes take. Oh, Starlink at Cape Kennedy? Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to live long enough for orbital rocket flights to be boring. And of course, the devil's in the details. It's like, did this cause you harm or not? Did it just hurt your feelings? Is that actual harm? So it's not that simple, but it actually does say that's my definition of good, because I think because I think that it matches the classical definition of happiness. And the classical, and I didn't know this until 3 years ago or something. The classical definition of happiness, according to the Greeks and the Romans, was using all of your faculties to your fullest potential. And that's why I'm so switched on about the colonies. I have so many things there's so many tools that I can use, and music and dialogue and dramatic reversals and suspense and mystery and the big emotional payoff, the disaster that strikes out of a clear blue sky and knocks everybody on their butt, and how do people react when they've had their lives smashed, or how do they react when they get all the things that they thought they wanted? That's all very interesting to me, and I think that all kind of gets wrapped up in the morality. But generally speaking, obviously, all of those things that I think are virtues are things that are virtues because I grew up in a society that was based on Christian values. So, in Islam, it would be an enormous value and a big part of my society in order to have the power to squash infidels under my boot. So I understand that there is different perspectives on that, but I can also look at American society and Islamic society and tell you which one I think is happier for everybody, despite all of the decadence and all the other stuff on the extremes. Okay, last one for the night from Rusha Dark again. Topic: the AI in Saudi Arabia. What are your thoughts on our recent warming relations with Saudi Arabia? I always thought we'd had pretty warm relations with Saudi Arabia. Personally, I think MBS is a great reformer, a modern-day Suleiman. There are still issues with women's rights in the kingdom, among other things, but I like the overall direction they're heading in, helping us economically, ecologically, technologically, and militarily. It would be nice to finally see a two-state solution and an end to Iranian terror. We're talking about Saudi Arabia. Elon Musk and Jensen Huang just did an interview talking about cooperation with the Saudis and possible putting AI and solar energy into space, which solves a ton of problems with both of these technologies. Scott Adams has suggested that AI might help further reform the kingdom, or at least be used as leverage toward a freer, more open country away from radical Islam. Yeah, didn't Tucker say something about that, about how you can leave your car unlocked in Riyadh? You don't have to worry about your wife getting raped in Riyadh and all that other stuff. You also don't get to do what you want or say what you want or any of the rest of the stuff in Riyadh. It is a genuine aristocracy. It's not a constitutional monarchy. It is a just old-fashioned kingdom. It's the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I generally am against kings, and I'm against not generally. I'm pretty much universally against them, because I believe in meritocracy, and the thing about the Saudis is they're the epicenter for Sunni Islam, and Islam is not a great innovator, and it's not a great mixer. The reason that America has produced so much innovation is because of the turmoil. It's a reactor. It's a solar reactor. America is exactly politically what the sun is. The sun is a giant ball of hydrogen and helium, where the gravity is so intense that it can, at the core, produce pressures that'll fuse hydrogen into helium and release a tremendous amount of energy, which wants to explode the star, but the gravity keeps it together, so it's in a state of perfect equilibrium. And it just generates enormous amounts of energy. And that's what I see America as, in terms of morality and in terms of innovation, science, just progress. You can't you want cohesion and unity, and these, inward directed forces are all important, but you have to have something that's wanting to explode as well. And if you look at a country like Norway, which I absolutely adored, I had a great 5 days in Norway. I loved it. Super clean, lovely people. There's no friction there. There's no tension there, and it's that interplay between mass and energy that creates so much innovation and so many other pathologies. We have the Second Amendment to keep us free, and we have a lot of gun violence in this country. It's worth it, and I'd say that if it were me and Charlie Kirk's, I guarantee you Charlie Kirk is not sitting in heaven saying, "Boy, I wish I hadn't said that about gun rights." I mean, principles are principles, whether you become a victim to the fallout of them or not. But in any event, I just don't see that the lack of freedom is worth anything there. And when I think of just the Arab states, I mean, I look at Dubai, and Dubai looks like a science fiction city. It looks like the kind of city that New York should look like, and I'm very envious of that because it's beautiful. It looks like the 21st century. It's beautiful, but there's no soul there, at least from the people. I haven't been. I might be getting close to going, but the people I know who have been there say that there is no. It is a top-down structure that came from money that wasn't generated by the people that lived there. They didn't work for the money that they've got. The Saudis didn't, and none of the Gulf states did. They can't build the Burj Dubai. They can't maintain it. They can't design it. They have to hire other people to do that because they were fortunate enough to be sitting on top of a fortune when oil was absolute king. So I would rather live in Saudi Arabia than in Venezuela. I'd rather live there than in Democratic Republic of the Congo. I'd rather live there than a lot of places, but I wouldn't rather live there than here. And I wouldn't rather live there than Australia or New Zealand or any of those other places. And my God, is Canada becoming just a nightmare in front of our eyes? I mean, what's happening in Canada and Britain, the fascism of the police there, and this idea that you made some Facebook post or something that somebody was offended by, so we're sending you to jail for 4 years. Meanwhile, the streets are just feral. So, yeah, what a cool name. Rhaegar Targaryen Prime says, I always thought that Dubai was fake. Yeah, I do too. I just think it's money. K.X says, money is printed by the Fed. Please look this up, Bill. Why is it a reserve note? Because it's literally debt like a car note. Yes, our financial system is a mess, and you can blame the Federal Reserve for it, and you can blame getting off of the gold standard with Richard Nixon. There's no question about that. Money isn't money in any way that we understand the term anymore. It's just not money. And I don't see how this stuff really survives. But, the beautiful thing about, I opened with it, I might as well end on it. The beautiful thing about being able to do, all science fiction is it's a laboratory of ideas. Science fiction is the ability to say, if we were to do this, then this might happen or would happen or so on. And your view of the future, which is kind of unique to Western people, I'm finding out more and more that just the idea of the future, let alone living in the future, is pretty much a Western concept. But your internal idea as a writer, all of your values get to play out into this world. And maybe it will be Ice Pirates, or maybe it will be Star Wars. Just never know whether you get the secret sauce and the lightning in a bottle and all the rest of it. But you get to show people what you would like to see. And that's why I'm doing the colonies. To me, is it what's the word I'm looking for? Is it utopian? Yes, of course it's utopian. But it's not a utopia. To me, utopia is a place where the hardship binds people together about things that really matter. I wrote it down. I included it in my feasibility studies. I don't have it in front of me, do I? Somewhere. But the thing about the frontier is that a frontier means you have a perpetual source of hardship, and you've got a place for the people with initiative to go, to run. We don't have any place to run to right now. And that is a problem. Because if there was a frontier on this earth, and there were a bunch of people who were out there doing what our forefathers did on the American plains, I'd go. Well, I have to check with the boss first, but I would talk her into going. Yeah, and my future and my values are Dragonhold says vision of the future is return to the 60s space age optimism. That's really it. I mean, I just grew up with such an optimistic future. I've pointed them out before, not often. Here, it's like, let me see, hang on a second. Let me get my, so this is what I get to look at every day when I'm working. These are Sid Mead paintings. There's some Sid Mead over there. There's the symbol of hope and the future and all the stuff that I believed in, and I'm looking forward to tearing all these things down and putting up colony stuff. So there you go. So that's that. Anyway, that'll do it for tonight. I think it's I got one more shot to put together. It's a difficult shot. AI is amazing, and it is astonishingly stupid. I mean, really, really astonishingly, stubbornly stupid. It is a donkey on a dirt road stupid. You can pull, push, whip, chastise, coerce, and it will not do what you want it to do, even if it's something really simple. But when you somehow manage to charm this thing into the sweet spot, and everything you touch, you get 4 renders back, and every single one of them looks great, then you are in golden land. So there we go. All right, so that'll do it. You probably know by now, but this show is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com, who are just terrific folk. Oh, will we do a Thanksgiving show next Thursday? I suspect not. I'll do it Friday. We'll do it Friday. Until then, thanks again for our members for keeping all this coming and putting up with with all of this froth and what's the term I'm looking for? Sound and fury, signifying something someday, I hope. And until then, we will see you guys on Monday for your very own Stratosphere Studios. So until then, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Come on, there it is. It's it's here. Here it is. There it is, and we out of here.